Okay, thank you very much for coming to the screening of Shankar's Fairies at the Hong Kong Asian Film Festival 2021. Today, we are very happy to have with us the director of this film to join us, to share with us her experiences of making this very wonderful film. Shall we extend a round of applause to the director, Irfana Majumdar. Hello, Irfana.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for bringing us this very, very moving and affectionate film. But before we start, do you want to say a few words to the Hong Kong audience first?
Yes. Well, thank you for inviting me to be here and to be able to talk with the audience. It's very, very nice and very special because, I mean, to make a film means to want to connect with the people who will watch it. So it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you. My mother's childhood memories spent in some form or the other. And I myself am acting in the film as the fictionalized version of my own grandmother when she was young, which made it challenging, but also much more very meaningful for me. So I'm very interested to know what your thoughts are on the film, and if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, before I hand the microphone to the floor, I'm sure the audience will have a lot of questions to ask. But maybe I'll just start with my question, because I'd just like to know, how do you work with your mother on the screenplay? Because it's drawn from her memories, and you have to work with her, and in a way, it's also to transform it to your vision. So, what's the collaboration like?
Yeah, well, we worked on it for many months. So my mother began by making after that, she started building the screenplay. Consists of many episodes, many small incidents. Exactly like some stories which have a very flowing narrative. In ways, she started putting together different memories. And what we did then together is to weave them together to make a kind of story which took place in a few months' time, in the life of this little girl, which the actual memories didn't, they may have been drawn from many years of her life. So what we did was, once she had the basic script in place in terms of incidents and the story and the characters, episode for her and for the film. And so then slowly we built on how they should flow together and how they connect together and how they could create a new story for this film.
Okay, Irfana, I think the connection's a bit choppy, but I think we'll try to get by, because sometimes, we missed out quite a few words, but it's okay. I think we can manage. So maybe I'll just open it up to the floor to see what the audience would like to ask Irfana, and also if you have something to say about the film, please feel free to do so. If you do have questions, please raise your hand, and then my colleague will pass you the microphone. Okay, any questions from the audience? Anyone would like to say a few words about the film, or if you have anything to ask Irfana? Okay, maybe they're just still digesting the film, but maybe I'll ask another question that I have, Irfana, because talking about your mother is a historian. So this film, in a way, is very personal, but also it has a very distinct personal background. It's about post-colonialism. It also has the India-China war lurking in the background. So what's your thoughts about having this layer in the film and in the story?
Well, actually, all of our work, in my other work and my other work, we've with, the larger society. So, and in fact, I feel that they can't really be separated, because who we are and what we do and what we feel is personal is so shaped by all the events around us and the society which we are framed in. And this film is a perfect example of that, because at the core of it is this relationship between a child and a man, an adult man. And we can all relate to that because we've all experienced some version of that in our own lives. But their relationship is so by who they are in terms of the society, outside themselves individually, how they're seen, and their own lives in the future beyond just the moment where they're connecting will come dictated by that. So I think it was very important for us to kind of put together these two things, but in a subtle way. It happens, it unfolds, and I feel that the personal is what makes us feel strongly about larger things in society. So that was what we wanted to do.
So I'm sure that, well, this story is is set in the 1960s, but I'm sure that you do see some echoes of that era with the state of things we're living in today. So what do you think are the parallels between these two eras? So that, because that must be one of the reasons why you wanted to put this story onto the screen.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in India, this basic hierarchy based on class very much still exists, and it's very strong today. And say that it's more, but it's extremely entrenched. And when we are I also work in an organization where we have a school and we do art projects with children and youth, and it feels as though everything is dictated by this class inequality in the country. Every opportunity available, everything that shapes people's lives. And I suppose for young people, 1962 really feels like a long time ago. And many of the crew who are working on our film used to ask questions which seemed very surprising. Did they have electricity? And, for them, 1962 was really ancient history. And so I think it's important for people to see that actually, if whether thought of as long time ago, not enough happened in India at all. And in fact, there's more and perhaps less idealism as there was at that time. So one thing we wanted to show is at that time there was a lot of at least national thing and idealism and a desire to have good other kinds of change happen, even in people who are still behaving in ways which we don't agree with. But now perhaps that's much less so.
So and also about the production, because, well, we can see that the production design is really impressive, and the sets, the house, everything, it really reminds us or gives us a very authentic idea of what India was like in 1962. So how did you actually find those sets? For example, the house, it was the house that your grandfather used to live in, wasn't it?
It was not the house where my mother grew up. It's like the houses where she grew up, but it's the house where my grandparents retired. So when he was younger, my grandfather posted in many different cities. and mostly all in this kind of a bungalow. And then when he retired, he moved to this one in 1980. And it's actually the house I visited as a child. I mean, I spent much of my childhood, so I had a strong connection to it. And luckily, my grandmother had maintained it quite in the same way. She hadn't changed many things. So obviously not as it was in 1960s. It wasn't even a living house at that time. I mean, it was there, but no one lived in it. But still, there were many, many things which still had a feel, an older feel, you know, not newly renovated and not so modern. So we had to do a lot of house. And in fact, since it's my first film and we were inexperienced, we did more work. We really renovated the entire house and created it as a 1962 house instead of thinking of it as sets and pieces which you would have to film. So every single room, every single wall, the doors, we repainted, we created. But it was a pleasure to do that because we were living in the house as we were doing it. So we were able to relive, you know, the times and doing it.
Okay, so Irfana, maybe I'll just see whether there are any questions from the audience. Okay, if we do have that lady over there have questions. Okay, please.
Hello, actually, I'm not a lady.
Oh, sorry, I can't see from here. I'm sorry.
Hello, Irfana, I am Colin. I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong.
No.
First of all, I think this is a very delicate film, and thank you for that. And throughout this film, I think we saw many things. Like for one, there are political message, just a little bit. I think just a little bit. I don't think you're really going there to talk about some huge political issues. And I also saw like the master and the servants relationship, and actually two father and daughter relationship. The first being Ajana and Shankar, and the second being Ajana and her real father. So I think among all these messages, I want to ask if there's only one message you want us, the audience, to take away from this film, what would it be?
Well, like I said, it's an interweaving message. So it is this, when we, especially perhaps the such importance to individualism and the personal, how you as an individual feel. But I mean, what I really think is important is for us to recognize how we connect to the larger society. So perhaps it's that, to always see ourselves in a bigger context and question, you know, how we are performing our roles and what agency we have in that.
Okay, so I think there's a question on at the back, right? I mean, okay, then maybe this lady over here, please.
Yes, I'm a lady. Thank you very much for the film. It's really, really beautiful. And I think a lot of things that we are able to understand today, it's because it is that many issues are valid today still. Therefore, it speaks to us. And I also think the British colonial background also resonates with how it is like in here, especially with I think the school is Catholic, right? So with Catholic girls' schools in Hong Kong as well. And so what I have is, I actually think the film is really, really critical. I mean, through the child's lens, her eyes, to see the adult's world. I'm just wondering what's the background of the father in the film?
You mean his education?
Yeah, his education as a government official, I would presume. And
Yeah.
what does he have to do with the military during that
Well,
time? And what
yeah.
was the war about at that time?
Yeah. So he's at the police. He's the senior superintendent. And as a young man, much younger, his early 20s, have given a government exam, to join the police. And then since he's well educated, he joined as an officer already, and then he rose in the ranks. So senior superintendent already is quite a high rank in the system. So well educated in the British system. Perhaps he traveled abroad as a young man to England, and then he joined this path. And at that time in the country, the civil services and police and these kind of services, army, etc., were ranked extremely high. So all families where they were well-educated people would want their young sons mostly to join. So he followed what his family wanted. What we wanted to show a little bit in the film is that he had another side, an interest in poetry and in music and things like that, which also came, but it didn't have much of an outlet. He doesn't have any direct relationship to the military or the army. I mean, the police is sometimes called in for some emergencies, but otherwise it's just a background in the country. Since this war is going on between India and China at that time, everyone is sort of, it's on everyone's consciousness and everyone's sort of on the alert. But he's involved with more local matters, like there's this dacoit killing in the very beginning. So he's involved with trying to make his own state a safer place and those kinds of things.
So, Irfana, actually, as you said, this is your first feature, and before making this film, you've made quite a few documentaries. So, what vacuums for you for the future? I mean, would you continue to make features or fictional features, or would you be skipping between fiction and reality in a way?
Well, actually, I have made documentaries, but it's been a long time since my last one. And so the other part of my work is in theater. So I'm a theater director also, and that's much more active. I work in that active. So that work continues for me, but definitely films, fiction feature films, and the same team, my husband and mother and I, are working on our next one, which hopefully we can announce at some point. But we really liked working together as a team, so we continue that also.
Okay. I'm sure the audience would have a lot of questions to ask. Actually, I will have a lot of questions to ask, but sadly, we are running out of time. So, so maybe we have to leave it here. But well, shall we give another round of applause to Irfana Majumdar, the director of Shankar's Fairies? Thank you so much, Irfana, for joining us and giving us this very wonderful film.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much.
I wish I could have been there in Hong Kong.
Yes, definitely.
Person,
with your next film or with your next theatrical production, please. Yes, hopefully we'll see you here soon.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.